Names have been changed for legal reasons. Elizabeth and I met on a site called hotornot.com in 2003. We officially met on Saturday, January 24, 2004. By February 13th, we're dating. Several weeks later, I got notice of deployment overseas. Elizabeth wasn't thrilled. While away during the deployment, I got letters weekly. We also spoke on the phone daily. This was the woman I was destined to be with as far as I was concerned, since my previous fiancée, Leah, wasn't ready, and I thought I was. I came home on leave and she picked me up wearing a dress. First time I had seen her in a dress. She was a sight to behold. I returned to my deployed unit and conversations continued regularly. The last 4 months of the deployment, I told her I did not want to return to my previous home. I sent her money to find me an apartment and told her she could stay in it until I returned or move in with me. She jumped at the chance of not living with her mom. There were hints of jealousy and questioning my loyalty every time my phone went off or I got on the internet for 2 to 3 years. But life was good otherwise. We found a bigger place to live as we were expanding. Blaming me of cheating continued, yet I've been faithful. I told her if she continued blaming me for something I hadn't done, I would. She continued, and I did once, then again with an old friend and previous love interest that wanted to. She hacked my laptop while I was at work and posted on my Facebook and contacted people she assumed I was messing with. I hadn't told her I had done anything yet. My friend Jen called me to let me know what was up on Facebook. We had a blowout and she told me to leave. I packed my stuff and put it in storage and took off. She called me while I was on the highway heading to Mom's, said something that led me to believe she would harm herself. I turned around. When I got there, there were cops waiting for me. Her friend, we'll call Ashley, married a cop and cheated on him with another cop, told the cops there was a domestic issue. Cops waited for me in my driveway, questioned me, and left after realizing she had no marks, I wasn't home, I have never been violent with a woman and with no history of violence either. If anything, she's the violent one. Elizabeth and I talked, and I apologized. I promised change and started with my phone number. I left nearly everyone I knew, except for family, behind. We made up. Since then, I swore to never put her through that and kept my word. After my daughter was born in 2006, she gained weight and became more of a workaholic than ever. We had arguments about little things. She would refuse to ever do dishes, and since I was the cook, I thought it was only fair. Dishes got so bad that she actually would throw away dishes, pots, pans, and so on because she refused to wash them. It was beneath her. We had more sex, a child, and life had normalized, with the biggest difference is my phone no longer rang, at all. I didn't even go see my mother or family without her. When I did, my phone went off every hour or two. I had to go to Iraq on deployment in 2008. She came to see me just before shipping out at my training center in Texas or New Mexico. I was glad to see her and our daughter. I shipped out and went to Iraq while she was in school with a 2-year-old. I sent her money to cover rent for the entire year in one shot. She would leave me messages of my little girl on voicemail if I couldn't call while they were awake. She was in nursing school and graduating in January. I was supposed to make it home for Christmas, but Snow had other plans. I called a friend to pick me up at the airport on December 26th when I landed. I went home and no one was there, so I sat on the couch in the dark until they came home. I think I surprised her a little bit because all I heard was, "You expletive asshole," when I said hello as she walked into the dark living room. I was home for her graduation from nursing school. She is still gaining weight, but I would never tell her anything about it. I returned to the Middle East and got injured again. This time more seriously than the previous one. It actually ended my military career with a medical discharge. Soon after I got out, we talked and arrived at the conclusion that we would have a better chance at getting a house if we were married. We married soon after. We stayed with a new mutual friend, whom we'll call Annie, until we found the house we could buy. We stayed with Annie for about 3 months, and we bought a place 4 blocks from her. Annie and her family were amazingly hospitable people. I spent 5 years with the military and the Veterans Affairs trying to assess the damages I incurred and how to fix it. As you might not be surprised to hear, not much was done, and I never got the same diagnosis twice. I ended up at a sports medicine doctor that figured out the problem and solution in just 2 visits. The sex was more sporadic now. She had gained more weight and had mood swings. I honestly think the drop in sex was on me, but I also didn't want to have sex while angry with someone who was making me angry. With attitude and mood swings, her temper would escalate, and I was the first person she'd see and the one she'd blow on when she got home. She expected me to help clean the house more often, and when I did, she would find something that wasn't clean to go off on. If I wasn't with the kid or working, I'd retreat to my PlayStation. We used to play together, but two-player games that we'd both be interested in were no longer the norm. Even heading to the range with me no longer was a couple's activity. She'd either complain about her back or being tired. PlayStation became my escape from the physical and emotional pain. She doesn't say please or thank you to me, no have a nice day at work or in general. I wasn't happy with how I was treated. My oldest kid noticed it and voiced it a few years later. My input was often treated as an opinion, so I didn't volunteer it anymore, even if asked for it. Still, I'd never consider abandoning my family, my kid, or my wife. I also gained weight since the injury, but I never hit 200 pounds. By 2021, she had hit nearly 260 pounds.
In 2018, my job left the state. My sex life with my wife was dying down. My wife didn't say much, but she has never at this point really said no to sex unless she was on her cycle, and even then she warned it would get messy. Still, we went at it. Sometimes she'd say, "Your wife is horny," which I naturally complied with. She did straddle me on occasion while I was on the couch playing or watching TV, a hint hard to ignore. She worked a lot, so much so that she rarely attended the sporting events she signed our kid for. I have never missed one. The kid noticed, and I was her favorite. Mom was more of a financial backer at this point. Buy the kid's love. I wasn't entirely broke. I still managed to pay every bill I had, but coming from a third world country and raised by my mother, I do not buy love. I was there. We did have a second girl in 2014. Her career now allowed her to make double what I was making easily, but she was working a lot. 70 hours wasn't out of the ordinary. We did not have shared accounts. I've never been into money like that, and I've never asked her for any either. Our money would pool up for the house, the kids, or vacations. She is a spender. I redid the house's bathrooms, floors, sinks, vanities, furniture, even fixed a contractor's screw-up. We even redid the kitchen in its entirety. I took pride in the manual labor and what I put into it. I still haven't heard a thank you or a praise for my hand in it. Communication was now poorer. I loved this woman, so I wasn't going to give up. We did have a talk in which we addressed concerns. We agreed to make changes. I made changes. I wouldn't even turn on my PlayStation during the week if she was home. I would come to bed with her earlier, and so on. Weeks go by, and I noticed I am the only one making changes. When I confronted her, she said she didn't believe my changes were permanent, so she wasn't going to try. That was my effort moment. I turned on the PlayStation. Sex also suffered. She would rarely, if ever, say no, but would complain if I asked her to switch into positions where she would have to put in work. Her back was the reason every time. For some time, we weren't seeing each other much outside of dinner time because of our schedules. If I wasn't working, I was at home with the kids or at whatever sporting activity or school-related activity they were scheduled for. She was either asleep, at work, or at some lunch with friends. I'd tell her that her daughter is upset that she's not coming to any of her games, to which she would sometimes get up and come to, but if the child lit up and asked if she was coming, Elizabeth would get irritated and yell that maybe she wouldn't come. That would naturally make my child run to her room to cry. That pissed me off, and I let her know she was being a jerk and got in between to absorb any outburst coming towards the kid. Despite it all, I considered my wife to be my best friend. I would call her for anything I would call a friend for. I liked hearing her voice. I'd call her even for hypothetical dumb questions, which she was less amused by as time went on. She would sometimes tell me about her day. She'd think I wasn't listening, so I had to summarize back to her what she had just told me. I valued her opinion, especially about the house or kids, even if mine wasn't valued. My wife was my sun, although in hindsight, I didn't say it much. 2021. My wife's 90-something grandmother's health declines yet again, and she has to get a medical procedure. The procedure does not go as planned, and who went in wasn't who came out. Her children weren't up to the task of taking their mother in, so my wife's career as a nurse made her uniquely qualified to deal with her and had to volunteer to take her in. Pressure was on her until I realized the pressure was actually on me. My wife still works a lot. COVID-19 hits, and I'm now home every day. My oldest daughter pitched in a lot more than I expected her to. A lot more than her great-grandmother's 4 grown 50-plus-year-old children. I ended up hosting physical therapists, taking her up and down our flight of stairs, dealing with medical appointments for dialysis, feeding and entertaining her. This old woman would make up stories when Elizabeth got home. One would be that I was talking to someone about taking my kids away in an airplane. A more disturbing one was that I was molesting my oldest child. That did not go well with me, and when we told our daughter, she wound up crying and wouldn't talk to her great-grandmother for a bit. I stayed away as well. The great-grandmother would also oppose punishments of the kids. Elizabeth got angry and told her if she thought she could have a say in her parenting, that she needed to leave. At the 6-month mark, she got into a blowout with her about parenting, so my wife called her eldest aunt and told her to come get her mother. My wife was still in charge of all medical-related things as well as her finances, which included selling her grandmother's place. Summer 2021, my wife tells me she wants to get weight reduction surgery. It's a surgery, so I'm petrified. She wanted me to not return to work until she had recovered from surgery, and I agreed. 2 weeks after she recovered, she was angry that I hadn't returned to work. I did find a job that was not exactly safe. I had some minor injuries. Noise level exceeded 96 decibels for the entirety of the 10-hour day, and I told my wife. To her, it was me complaining. That took me by surprise. My wife would now be going to the gym every day. Her dietary requirements changed, and I wasn't keeping up with it. She would buy large quantities of meals suited for her new diet, fill the refrigerator with it, and leave little room for me and the 2 kids. By this point, my wife had lost about 80 pounds. She looks almost as good as when we began dating. I asked her what she thought about how people see her now, and she began to cry and said it was messed up. She gets so much attention now, and the people that didn't acknowledge her last year or prior now do. I would occasionally hear her crying in the bedroom, so I'd go ask what's wrong. She'd say nothing and tell me to get out. I'd get out and come back later and ask again. She'd yell to get out. I'd get frustrated and angry because I can't figure out why my wife is crying and she won't tell me. She'd see I'm angry and then think that I'm angry because she's crying, not because I was frustrated that I didn't know why she was crying. I knew she had a lot going on, but she's not the talkative type, at least not with me anymore. She's been dealing with her own health, her grandmother's, her family's nonsense. She was touched by her mother's boyfriend when she was younger. Her ex-boyfriend before me calls her with extreme frequency the last 15 years. She brushes him off or turns off the ringer. It struck me odd that she wouldn't just block him. I told her to let me pick up when he calls, and she refused. When we began dating, she confided in me that she was damaged goods because of him. This woman had the audacity to tell me she wanted to bring her ex-boyfriend's 17-year-old son to stay with us for a few days as he was from a broken home. I wasn't happy about it, but I didn't say no. He was respectful and mannerly. We even hung out. Junior was involved in a drive-by shooting where he wasn't the target. He was the one jumping to save someone and got killed instead. She took that hard. Somehow no one would tell his imprisoned father, and somehow it fell on her to break the news. Not his mother, not the kid's mother, not the grandmother, my wife. She drove with his other son, who wasn't his, for 16 hours or so, across 6 states to go see him in jail. I had no say, and neither did the fact that she's a